And as we just got told, the entrance to this museum is completely free of charge if you own a visitor pass to any of the residencies here local. Now, what do you know? The entrance is free. And we got greeted here with the prehistoric events of this town. Slight little view to the outside. The events taken back about to the early Stone Age, about 2,000 years plus. Gedanken so machen.
Schädelreste von Nager.
Yeah, this is an amazing place. I've been to so many historical exhibitions, museums, but this will take it all. We're really getting the whole thing from scratch. The early Stone Age, prehistoric items. If, of course, as the lock has it, is all written in German. As I get my hands into some words that I'll be able to translate, I'll just flash them below. Here's some specific leftovers on some early animals. These are partially some herbs and plants and also bones for the most part. But this is actually some bones of the Höhlenbär, cave bear. Lots of things having to do with caves, as we are mountains and valleys surrounded. The cave hyena. Löspferd, it looks like a very type of a small pony, but that this eventually existed is proof for this skeleton. And bull nashorn. And believe it or not, there are traces that we once had a bison in here. Well, when continents between Africa and America and Europe once were connected, possibility. The ducks, Eisfuchs, Edelhirsch, and a mammoth, of course, very European widespread. Which is all had been part of the ice times, ice ages. The old Stone Age give us a presentation. And here a quick reference guide about when you coming across these types of ages. And this one right here happens to be particularly the jewel of this place. A grave that was digged out during some exhibition, some construction work, and it's dated to be over 4,000 years old. And here's some of the earlier evidences and potteries of items that were in use by the earlier traces of humans around the area, but particularly in this valley. And We're talking about pre-Roman historic ice ages and about 1,000 years before Christ. And eventually we got us here in a one original dig about a site really on location here that was just simply left as it is. And this is how you would eventually find all these local ancient treasures dating back from the Bronze Age. And this was a hill grave site. Again, some more pottery used before we even know that anybody here worth noticing was present. And these are actually representations of urns. And there are actual leftovers right here that were discovered. And this was leftovers from an actual body that was burned and put his own leftovers into those kind of urns, and they'd be put in graves, or maybe in modern days in the States be put at homes, but maybe not back then. And even that discovery already has its history in itself, dating back to 1682. During the process of digging for a basement, the workers made some surprising discoveries, finding all these prehistoric vases and urns and skeletons. So we see, even then, they caught many things by surprise. The early stages of digging of the Iron Age, evidence to be shown right here. In little pearls, fashionable discs, wavering weights. There was actually a cheese durain. I'm just translating this whole thing as it comes from my noses. Tools made out of bronze. And for making a net, could be for fishing, could be for something, but these were the weights for weaving the nets. And some kind of a stamp for designing potteries. And bits and pieces of potteries right next to it. And we come right next across to some good examples of some huts, homes from the past. And it's amazing, you have actually totally unlimited access, but we're keeping it simple. And these are really some prehistoric tools, pieces of wood that were part of, productions, everyday hunting probably. And part of early construction was, of course, certain types of mud. We get the early impressions, I guess, of mud homes. First evidence of humans keeping things together. And up it goes, and where it goes, nobody knows. Doesn't get any more famous than that. And we're done a little bit with the Stone Ages, Bronze Ages, Ice Ages, and coming back to the more, so-called modern times. More pictures from the early days. Lindenstraße is where we are actually on. One of the historical homes we also had passed earlier, shown in pictures, which is referred to as a double home, from the Brunnenstraße we just passed by earlier from the year 1578. So here we're getting a little bit more references for our homes. Some little historical facts for those who want to take it on about those half-timber homes in productions and capacity. And coming into this one lowly chamber in between, we've taken on the weaving works. Don't have exact dates on that, but a lot of history to read up for the German viewers who are willing to take it on, and a little bitty on things where you would have taken it up in the mid of 18th century. Organized are these in here by different layers, and below little verses that actually rhyme when you take them on. Little example of weaving, how it was done. Here's some unique examples of the finishing product of this weavery. Eventually this must have been a good representation for its times during the imperial times in the 1800s, with some original weaving instruments, utilities, probably dating back even further. Okay, here a very unique picture of ironworks behind the city wall. And because of the constant danger of fire, the ironworks had to be processed outside their homes and houses contained by city walls, so they would not, catch anything on fire. Probably some people in the past, Paris and London, must have learned about how it comes down when city burns down. The old gateway. Well, I've also had mentioned it a little bit earlier, but even Bad Wildungen had its little history with the Germans, the time during the Nazis between 1933 and 1945. This town eventually once even had a synagogue, which was right part on the side of downtown here. But it was destroyed in 1938, was set on fire and demolished by explosives by the Nazis. Very sarcastic. The firefighters stood by and watched the whole thing burn down, but didn't, of course, make no effort on extinguishing the fire. Their purpose was just to make sure other buildings would not catch on fire. One pieces of the sad history right there. And speaking of which, we did get a little bit lucky here about the synagogue that I just had mentioned. Pictures are right here below from what this synagogue once looked like. This was the actual building completed from the outside, showing its locations from the air. And again, a better known picture you also will see on Wikipedia right here, before the church, the synagogue, with again, first set on fire, then with explosive demolished and totally destroyed to the ground. This picture on the bottom here on the floor, which represents probably still a few leftover standing during the demolishing process. There again, some shots from the synagogue. Some little history about that whole place. This collection of pictures just simply goes till the bitter end. Luckily, the city of Bad Wildungen was not totally involved in this whole destruction process and got pretty much scathed. And here we have more of memorabilia from the synagogue. Also more after the destruction. And we do have probably an original Torah and a Torah pointer. And it happens to be that these are praying books from a woman which is named after my hometown. Her name is Lena Mannheimer. Now, how unique is that? And some little historical timeline of some Bad Wildungen Jews between the time of 1933 and 45, which most of them, if they didn't have the chance to escape, flee, they did end up in some work or concentration camps. And we even have a partial name of this album, pictures from the album Deportation from Edith Kiss. And a replica from the synagogue in the middle of this room. Okay, a bed department for the little ones, for the little children, and the bed on top, which I believe is a unique representation for a mid-18th century living style. And just simply a lot of utilities, everyday items, probably dating back a little bit previous, the 18th century. As we were told, there's lots of items to be found from 18th, 17th, and 16th century. Very stylish cabinets. Unfortunately, not many details available from the persons, people representing, or the actual artists. A little baby crib. We do have a date, at least right here. Waldegger crib, around the 1870s. And it was donated by family architect Otto Meyer. Despite the fact that probably that person once even laying in there is already part of history as well. Very unique items here, from glasses to possibly little microscopes, vases, teacups, porcelains, potteries. And handmade pottery.
Das ist ja krass. Haben sie das gekriegt?
And more unique tobacco items for celebrating the evening, Feierabend, the German word of, okay, when you're done with work and it's quitting time. And back in the days, these were probably a lot of good representations for the social media in its own days. Many different types of pipes and varieties and such as. Now we do get, after all, some portraits with people's names on it.